Today it's Take Back Friday. Take Back Friday. Hey, 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 blessed people. Welcome to another Take Back Friday. And we are still in our Black History Love Month. And we have 3 more names to pull. So let's go ahead and pull those 3 names. We have A. Philip Randolph. We have Muhammad Ali. Just got through doing a boxer last week. And Nat Turner is our 3. I mean, I'm telling you, I have really been learning and growing by doing this. And I think even though February is almost over, I think I'm still going to do this on Take Back Friday. What do y'all think? But maybe not do all 3. It kind of takes a little bit of time. Maybe 1 or 2. Y'all let me know in the comments. Maybe just kind of focus on 1, or should I do 2? I know I probably don't want to do 3 because it just makes it a little bit longer. But I'm trying to get through all 100 of these. I want to learn about all 100 of the names I still have in here. So I'll be doing them throughout. Not every single Take Back Friday, but on some of them. I want to still pull those. So maybe I will do 2. Would that be too many, or should I just do 1 for that time? Y'all let me know. But the ones we have today is Nat Turner, Muhammad Ali, and A. Philip Randolph. Let's get on into it. All right, first up we have A. Philip Randolph. Asa Philip Randolph, born April 15th, 1889 to May 16th, 1979. He was an American labor unionist, a civil rights activist, and socialist politician. In 1925, he organized and led the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, the first predominantly African-American labor union. In the early civil rights movement and the labor movement, Randolph was a voice that would not be silenced. He continued agitation with the support of fellow labor rights activists against unfair labor practices in relation to people of color, eventually led President Franklin D. Roosevelt to issue Executive Order 8802 in 1941, banning discrimination in the defense of industries during World War II. The group then successfully pressured President Harry S. Truman to issue Executive Order 9981 in 1948, ending segregation in armed services. In 1963, Randolph was the head of the March on Washington, which was organized by Bayard Rustin, at which Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his I Have a Dream speech. Randolph inspired the Freedom Budget, sometimes called the Randolph Freedom Budget, which aimed to deal with the economic problems facing the Black community. It was published by the Randolph Institution in January 1660. I'm just messing that up, y'all. Let me rewind. It was published by the Randolph Institution in January 1967 as a freedom budget for all Americans. Let's see what else. A little bit about his early years. He was born in Crescent City, Florida. He was the second son of James William Randolph, which was his father, who was a tailor and a minister in an African Methodist church. And then his mom's name is Elizabeth Robinson Randolph, a skilled seamstress. Let's see, they moved to Jacksonville, Florida, which had a thriving, well-established African-American community. He learned some things, like from his father, he learned that color was less important than a person's character and conduct. And from his mom, he learned the importance of education and of defending oneself physically against those who seek to hurt one or one's family, if necessary. Let's see. Randolph remembered vividly the night his mother sat in the front room of their house with a loaded shotgun across her lap while his father tucked a pistol under his coat and went off to prevent a mob from lynching a man at the local county jail. Let's see what else. After Randolph graduated, he worked some odd jobs and devoted his time to singing, acting, and reading. Let's see. He did marry. He had his wife, Mrs. Lucille Campbell Green, and she was an entrepreneur. She made some pretty good money to support both of them, but they did not have any children. After he got married, he was into like Shakespeare and was doing different things. He played roles of Hamlet, Othello, and Romeo, and things like that. So he was really getting into his acting career. Let me see. What else? But he didn't last very long. He just kind of left it alone after a while. So, civil rights a little bit here. So through his success with the BSCP, Randolph emerged as one of the most visible spokesperson for African American civil rights in 1941. What else do I want to go over? And then just a little bit about how he passed away and stuff like that. So Randolph died in his Manhattan apartment on May 16, 1979. For several years prior to his death, he had heart condition and high blood pressure. He had no known living relatives, as his wife Lucille had died in 1963 before the March on Washington. So once again, that was A. Philip Randolph, who was an American labor unionist, civil rights activist, and socialist politician. All right, more information, check him out. Thanks. Next up is the great Muhammad Ali. I am not gonna go, he has pages, right? I'm gonna try to keep it as short as possible. So Muhammad Ali, born Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr., born January 17th, 1942, passed away June 3rd, 2016. He was an American professional boxer, activist, entertainer, and philanthropist. His nickname was The Great. He is widely regarded as one of the most significant and celebrated figures of the 20th century and as one of the greatest boxers of all time. Ali was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. He began training as an amateur boxer at age 12. At age 16, he won a gold medal in the light heavyweight division at the 1960 Summer Olympics and turned professional later that year. He became a Muslim after 1961. He won the World Heavyweight Championship from Sonny Liston in a major upset on February 25th, 1964 at age 22. On March 6, 1964, he announced that he no longer would be known as Cassius Clay, but as Muhammad Ali. Okay. In 1966, Ali refused to be drafted into the military, citing his religious beliefs and ethical opposition to the Vietnam War. He was found guilty of draft invasion, so he faced 5 years in prison and was stripped of his boxing titles. He stayed out of prison as he appealed the decision to the Supreme Court, which overturned his conviction in 1971. So that's good. But he had not fought for nearly 4 years and lost a period of peak performance as an athlete because of that. So let's see what else. Ali's action as a objector to the Vietnam War made him an icon for the larger counterculture generation, and he was a very high-profile figure of racial pride for African Americans during the Civil Rights Movement and throughout his career. As a Muslim, Ali was initially affiliated with Elijah Muhammad's Nation of Islam. He later disavowed the NOI in adhering to Sunni Islam and supporting racial integration like his former mentor Malcolm X. He was involved in several historic boxing matches and feuds, most notable his fights with Joe Frazier, such as the Fight of the Century and the Thrilla in Manila, and his fight with George Foreman, known as the Rumble in the Jungle, which has been called arguably the greatest sporting event of the 20th century and was watched by a record estimated television audience of 1 billion viewers worldwide. Y'all, that's a lot, okay? Becoming the world's most watched live television broadcast at the time. Ali thrived in the spotlight at a time when many fighters let their managers do all the talking, and he was often provocative and outlandish. He was known for trash talking. Y'all know he was a trash talker, and often freestyle with rhyme schemes and spoken word poetry, anticipating elements of hip hop. So he liked to do his little rhyming and hip hop thing, little chants and stuff like that to things. There was a few other things I wanted to go over. Oh yeah, so just some different little highlights. So he was born in Louisville, Kentucky. He died on the 3rd, 2006 in Scottsdale, Arizona. Let's see. He went to Central High School. And spouse, he did get married a few times, looks like. So Sonji Roy, right, from 1964 to 1966. And then Belinda Boyd from 1967 to 1977. And then we have Veronica Porsche Ali, 1977 to 1986. And all those were like divorces, okay? Yolanda Williams, 1986. And I guess that is who he stayed married to until the end. Children, he had 9, including Layla Ali. His parents was Cassius Marcellus Clay Sr. and Odessa Grady Clay. I think there was a few other things I wanted to go over, but like I said, I'm trying not to go too much into that. He had one brother. His father was a sign and billboard painter, and his mother, Odessa, was a domestic helper. Let's see. Ali was first directed toward boxing in by Louisville police officer and boxing coach Joe E. Martin. I like this part, so hold on. So, who encountered the 12-year-old fuming over a thief's having taken his bike. So somebody stole Muhammad's bike and he was upset. So he told the officer he was going to whoop the thief. And the officer told Clay that he better learn how to box first. And that's kind of what put that spark in him, because he started looking into different things and started looking into boxing and stuff. And after that, he thought he'll go ahead and look into it a little bit more. So I thought that was pretty interesting, because he was just mad and had all this anger because somebody took his bike. All right, so see, I want to say that was pretty much all I wanted to do. I do want to talk about kind of his ending part here. So he ended up with Parkinson's, led to a gradual decline in his health. Though he was still active into the early years of the millennium, promoting his own biopic Ali in 2001. That year he also contributed an on-camera segment to the American A Tribute to Heroes benefit concert. In 1998, Ali began working with actor Michael J. Fox, who also had Parkinson's disease, to raise awareness and fund research for a cure. In February 2013, Ali's brother, Raymond Ali, said Muhammad could no longer speak and could be dead within days. But Ali's daughter, Maymay Ali, responded to the rumors, stating that she talked to him on the phone the morning of February 3rd and he was fine. On December 20th, 2014, Ali was hospitalized for a mild case of pneumonia. Ali was once again hospitalized on January 15, 2015, so a year after, for a urinary tract infection after being found unresponsive at a guest house in Scottsdale, Arizona. He was released the next day, and then we have him being hospitalized in Scottsdale, Arizona on June 2nd, 2016, excuse me, with a respiratory illness. Though his condition was initially described as fair, it worsened and he died the following day at the age of 74 from septic shock. Let's see. Following Ali's death, he was the #1 trending topic on Twitter for over 12 hours and on Facebook for several days. So y'all know that was a tough one to bite, to see him go and stuff like that. So no more pain and none of that type of stuff. So that's a good thing. So legendary Muhammad Ali. I know there's a lot that you can tell me. I'm just barely tapping in. Just knowing that I'm just tapping in and doing some very basic info on all of these. Definitely do some extras for those who you want to go more into. So let's go ahead and get into the next one. All right, last but definitely not least is Nat Turner. The main thing is the Nat Turner slave rebellion is what he was part of. So October 2nd, 1800 to November 11th, 1831 was an African-American enslaved preacher who led the 4-day rebellion of enslaved and free Black people in Southampton County, Virginia in 1831. Born into slavery on October 2nd, 1800 in Southampton County, Virginia, an area with more Blacks than whites. So Turner was recorded, as Nate by Benjamin Turner, the man who enslaved him and his family. When Benjamin Turner died in 1810, under the current laws which made human enslavement legal, Nate was inherited as property by Benjamin's son, Samuel Turner. Y'all, I know this is like history, but this really gets to me every time I think about that. Just the thought of being enslaved and what our ancestors and what they have been through. Like, how can any human be considered as somebody's property? Anyway, let me keep going before I get a little too emotional. For most of his life, he was known as Nate, but after the 1830 rebellion, he was widely referred to as Nat Turner. Turner knew little about the background of his father, but was believed to have escaped from slavery when Turner was a young boy. Turner spent his entire life in Southampton County, a plantation area where enslaved people comprised the majority of the population. Turner learned how to read and write at a young age. He was identified as having natural intelligence and quickness of apprehension surpassed by few. He grew up deeply religious and was often seen fasting, praying, and immersed in reading the stories of the Bible. He frequently had visions which he interpreted as messages from God, and these visions influenced his life. He escaped slavery at age 21 from Samuel Turner, his captor. He returned a month later after becoming delirious from hunger and receiving a vision which told him to return to the service of my earthly master. He had his second vision in 1824 while working in the fields under a new owner, Thomas More. In it, the Savior was about to lay down the yoke he had bore for the sins of men, and the great day of judgment was at hand. So he was getting visions. God was speaking to him, and some things is about to shift. Some things is about to happen, and everything. So let me see. I'm not going to read all of this. By the spring of 1828, Turner was convinced that he was ordained for some great purpose in the hands of the Almighty. He heard a loud noise in the heavens while working in Moore's fields on May 12th. And the Spirit instantly appeared to me and said the serpent was loosened, and Christ had laid down the yoke, and he had bore for the sin of men, and that I should take it on and fight against the serpent. For the time was fast approaching when the first should be last and the last shall be first. So this just kind of reminds me of, saying, there's a time for everything. There's a time to fight. There's a time to weep. There's a time to, be silent. There's these, things like that. And sometimes there is a time to fight. There's a time to stand up, regardless of what people are saying. God ain't telling you to fight and kind of We have enslaved people who are being treated like they're not human. That is not what God wants for us. Never been what God wants for us. That's what man done did. So he said, okay, it's time to let's put some work into that. But anyway, let me keep going. Okay, so let me see. So he pretty much led, I thought I read, led this rebellion. He pretty much led this rebellion, got some people together, and had them go away. But they retaliated. They came back strong. So let me kind of go here. So a lot of people died, They was getting, people was like 100 and, where did I read that at? Oh, here we go. So within a day of suppression of the rebellion, so within a day of what happened, the local militia and 3 companies were joined by detachments of men from the USS Natchez and USS Warren, which were anchored in Norfolk, and militias from counties in Virginia and North Carolina surrounding, okay. The state executed 56 black people, and militias killed at least 100 more. Another estimate was that 120 blacks were killed, most of whom were not involved in the rebellion. So that's what gives me, is the fact that they just feel like it was just okay to just, the color of your skin already just ruled you out. That's just, it's it. Like, okay. Rumors quickly spread among that the slave revolt was not limited to Southampton, and that it had spread as far south as Alabama. Fears led to reports in North Carolina that armies of enslaved people were seen on highways, and that they had burned and massacred the white inhabitants in Wilmington, North Carolina, and were marching on the state capitol. Such fear and alarm led to whites attacking blacks throughout the South with flimsy cause, just doing extra, right? The editor of the Richmond Whigs described the scene as a slaughter of many blacks without trial and under circumstances of great barbarity. The white violence against the black people continued 2 weeks after the rebellion had been suppressed. General Epps ordered troops and white citizens to stop killing. So he started something. I really think he kind of got people riled up, just wanting people to be free. You know, he escaped from his owner and everything as well. Just want other people to be free. Felt like God was leading him to do that. And if that didn't happen, no telling what today could have been like. You know, it takes those outbreaks and unfortunate sacrifices that others have done for us to be free today, right? The sad thing, like, he was captured. He stayed away for like 6 weeks, like they couldn't find him and stuff like that. But October 30th, a white farmer named Benjamin Phipps discovered him hiding and took him in. So he was tried on November 5th, 1831 for conspiring to rebel and making insurrection. So he was convicted and sentenced to death. They hung him, y'all. He was, he was asked if he regretted what he had done, and his response was Christ not crucified? Then he was hung on November 11th in Jerusalem, Virginia. His body was then dissected and flayed, his skin being used to make purses as souvenirs. So, according to some resources, he was beheaded as an example to frighten other would-be rebels. Turner received no formal burial. His headless remains were possibly buried in an unmarked grave. Y'all, this is a little hard for me to read. Yeah, so I know I read too in here, I don't remember where, but about his head, like the skull. They found the skull of his head, and they're trying to see if it's really his. And someone gave it to the descendants of Turner, and if it does come back his, then they'll bury it with his family or whatever. So they were saying that they found his skull head or something like that. So, but anyway, enough of that. Nat Turner, bless you, sir, for stirring up some things for change and being led. So thank you. That is our 3 for this round. So we had Nat Turner, we had A. Philip Randolph, and we had Muhammad Ali. Bless you, African American men. All right. And until next time, I want you all to keep on marching on, Abs Nation. Bye.